everybody, today I am driving a Honda S660. On any normal day, this would be by far the most unusual vehicle that I have driven, but not today. For those not in the know, the S660 is one of Japan's K cars. That is a category of vehicle which is defined not just by its size, but also its weight, engine type, and performance. All K cars are very small, not all two-seaters, and they have 660cc turbocharged engines producing around about 60 odd brake horsepower. The S660 was the result of a design competition a few years ago, and it looks like the sort of weird love child of an NSX and an S2000, but at 2/3 scale. The S2000's hardly a spacious car on the inside, but this one is positively minuscule. Yes, I do fit in it. It's not really weight that's a problem, more height. I'm 5'10" with a tailwind, and if you are much taller than that, you really just wouldn't be able to fit in here. I've got the roof down because it is a lovely sunny day and we really need to enjoy those while we can, and why wouldn't you? This particular example is mostly standard, or about as standard as oddball Japanese K cars ever are. It's got the obligatory Blitz intake filter, it's got a strut brace in the back, although I'm not really sure that does anything, and it did have a chip on it, but we've taken that off, so this is producing the standard power. It's also got a slightly noisier than standard exhaust, but only by about 2 decibels, but importantly, it should ride and drive like a standard example. And this car's here to set a benchmark, because I am also driving today something a bit mad. The S660 feels like a car that is absolutely born for roads like this. Its short wheelbase and narrow track don't help it over the lumps and bumps, but it does a pretty decent job. And it is a car that, although I'm doing about 10 miles an hour below the speed limit, is immensely pleasurable. The trademark Honda gear shift is here. It's absolute perfection. The steering wheel is so funny, it's basically an item from a Civic, although possibly scaled down a bit. The view out is great. You've got these big scoops on the side, and this car, in case you were unsure, is actually mid-engined. I guess in some ways it's almost a modern evolution of the Smart Roadster, although in truth this car can actually trace its lineage back a lot further than that can. This is a replacement for the Honda Beat, and I gotta confess, I'm not really expert when it comes to K cars, so any mistakes, I'm sure the comment section will be kind enough to correct for me. But this is a lot of fun. 60 odd horsepower, granted, is not a lot, but it gets this car moving well enough, and it means you have to use that gear shift quite a bit. The red line's officially about 7.5, but the truth is, with the tiny turbo in this car, there's just no point getting there. If you've never seen one of these on the road before, there's probably a very good reason for that. In Japan, these cost new about £20,000. They are a premium small car over there. Unfortunately, because they are the kind of car that everybody wants, and the Japanese don't really want to let go, you're looking at paying anything from about £12,000 upwards to get one over here. And the fact is, I think most people are just going to look at one of these, then look at an S2000 and go, you know what, I'll just get the big one and save myself the hassle. These are not big roads. I know them very well. They are pretty narrow, they are pretty tight, but this is just the perfect thing to drive on them. It's wonderful. The steering is nice, actually quite communicative. The controls are all weighted very lightly. This is at heart a city car. You could get these with a CVT gearbox, which I suspect is probably awful. They apparently have paddles which simply interrupt the flow of torque to try and make you think it's changing gear. But this 6-speed box is an utter joy. Yeah, can't really even catch up to the lorry in front. With only about 8 of these in the country, you would think that having one of these would be, for some people, enough. But not for Scott. This is what you're waiting for. This is Scott's car. This is, as you might have guessed it, an S660 with a Liberty Walk body kit and an HKS tuning kit. I'm not sure it gets any more JDM than this. The Liberty Walk kit consists of front and rear bumpers, those pretty epic side skirts, and the classic Liberty Walk style lip spoiler at the back. It's a pretty epic looking thing and looks every inch the shrunken supercar. The HKS kit consists of a reworked turbo. It's physically the same housing as stock, but different internals, so it will make more power later on. You get an upgraded fuel pump to help feed that little 660cc engine, and this car also has a spoon exhaust and an HKS cat, those two not being part of the standard HKS kit. It's putting out around about 100 horsepower and about 100 pound-foot of torque. People can take these cars even further, but this one should be making relatively safe power. In addition, it has teen coilovers, which are a little bit firmer than the previous car, but actually not hideously so. It rides a little lower and has an epic stance, beautiful wheels on it in the classic JDM style. This is also the only one of its kind in all of Europe. In fact, the tour of the cars this morning, we created the second largest S660 meet in the country. Sounds so good! It's bouncy, revs to 8k, gear shift of course is just as slick as the last one, steering is great, the chassis does flex a little bit, but it's a teeny little thing. You can heel and toe in it. Oh, it sounds immense! So good, so smooth, so sweet. It's not in your face, it's not crazy. And I was worried for a second there. This big camera is not like it's getting shaken about like nuts, so I'm really sorry when I cut to this shot. It's a smile machine. Pure and simple smile machine. It's still not bonkers fast. These cars weigh just over 800 kilos, so about the same as a second generation Elise, and those had at least about 130 horsepower in them, but it's got a real charm to it, this thing. Whoa, the hell? How much road do you need? You need to get them to about 3,000 RPM before they really start shifting, but that does give this one in particular actually a fairly broad spread of power, about 5,000 RPMs worth, and that's pretty decent. You have a diddy little rear window back here, which you can raise or lower, and with it up, it actually does make it a little bit quieter in here. As you lower it down, you get a little bit more airflow straight through the cabin, and on a really warm sunny day, I think that would be very refreshing indeed. You do have AC in here, and the dash is simple but tells you exactly what you need to know. It seems to be inspired by the CRZ as much as anything else in its design and layout. The car even has Mugen wing mirror glass, blue tinted, classic JDM, love it. This thing is just adorable. And actually, it's one of those cars that I think really unites petrol heads and non-petrol heads, because it's not offensive, it's not too loud or shouty or aggressive. It's got just enough go in it though. Quiet, it is not. So I apologise for the fact I'm having to shout. Hopefully the sound is coming through okay. This is one of the sweetest sounding cars. I never expected that. Of all the things I was expecting from this review, I mean, I was worried about, was I going to be able to squeeze into it? What's it going to be like to drive? Is it actually going to be any good? Like, actually, the one thing I never expected was for it to sound as good as it does. I also didn't think it would shake my camera around quite as much as it has. So, again, further apologies for that. But really grateful to the guys for bringing down this amazing little pair of K cars, because these are quite special machines. The problems with the S660 are fairly easy to summarise. The cars and parts are both hard to find and not cheap, with a lot of stuff having to be sourced directly from Japan. They are pretty small inside, and they don't really have any storage space to speak of, barring the roof storage compartment at the front. And the ride, whilst tolerable, is just never going to be that comfortable due to the limitations of the platform. But if you can live with those compromises, the S660 is definitely a car worth your time. I'm going to Japan later this year, so I'm hoping to see a few more of them over there. I'd be interested to see what people do with them, but honestly, if I don't see anything anywhere near as cool as this, it won't bother me. The other benefit, of course, for all of these parts coming from Japan is that although they are very expensive, they are also of excellent quality. The HKS kit apparently went straight on with no leaks, no problems, and just worked. The Liberty Walk kit, again, expensive, but not compared to some other body kits, and it fit very well. Yeah, cut-off is just below 8, but it pulls all the way there. It talks to you so well. This is such a cool little car. In the last one, I just kept lusting for a bigger engine, but this really does solve the problem. It's actually quieter, but better sounding in here too. The last one, I didn't like the Blitz air intake that much. It's too spooly boy for me. I just noticed this car even has a little heads-up display with the speedo in miles per hour down there, which is quite cool. The last one also had a LED flare in it, a Japanese roadside flare, and it even had the Japanese toll tag still in it, which greeted you with some Japanese when you started it up. The exact archetypal, stereotypical kind of Japanese happy girl talking to you with some nice beeps, like you're about to start a session of Mario Kart, that kind of thing. Why is it that people are so utterly smitten with the Nissan Figaro? They're everywhere. There's dealers dedicated to them. And yet, I never see these. I don't understand it. I've not driven a Figaro, and I'm sure it's got a very different target audience. Most of the girls that I know tend to like the Figaro. This is perhaps a slightly more masculine car, but it's also so friendly, so easy, and just wonderful. Yeah, it's not cheap. That is the big downside. It's not cheap, but it is well made. And most importantly, it is a ridiculous amount of fun. The steering's actually even got texture, feel, feedback through it. Clutch is easy to use. Throttle's a joy. It's just proper. It is a real Honda, just less of it. I've had to cancel tomorrow's review because the weather is scheduled to be so bad. I'm sure you wouldn't believe that looking at these bright, gorgeous blue skies, but that is currently the state of England. So I'm really happy that we managed to get these ones filmed in time. If you're looking for an S660, I believe Torque GT helped these guys import at least one of them, and they can help sort things out, because you do have to IVA these cars, which is a process meaning you have to certify the car for use on British roads because they are under 10 years old and they were never certified for sale here in the first place. So you have to do that, but it's a relatively simple process if you have someone that knows how to do it. And at the end of it, you're going to have something fun, frugal, very good on fuel, these things, and interesting. What more could you want from a car? For me, not a lot. Thanks for watching. Please like, comment below, Subscribe if you haven't already. See you for the next one. Bye-bye.